Hi guys, it's Didi here, and in today's video I'm gonna share with you a few tips of things you can do at home to support the emerging pre-literacy skills in your children. Literacy skills are the skills needed for reading and writing, and they include things such as awareness of the sound, awareness of the print, correspondence between the print and the symbol, and it also includes comprehension, vocabulary, and spelling. We're going to look into it from two angles, which I borrowed from Montessori. One is the intellect, the development of the child cognitively, so that they're able to read and write. And the second is the motor mechanism, the ability of the child to start writing letters. Now, the most important thing to support the pre-literacy skills is to talk a lot to your children. I thought of omitting this one because I thought it's a pure common sense and that everybody would do that, but it turns out that in fact lots of people do not really get into conversations with their children, either thinking that they're too little to understand or they're babies, they don't know yet things, they don't get into the habit of opening communication and discussion. So regardless how old is your child, they may be babies, please make sure you talk to them a lot. And when you talk to them, use expressive language, lots of smiles, lots of visuals, because at that stage of their development, that's what they read mostly. The second thing is expose them to as many books as possible. Again, it's a common sense for me, but apparently it's not a common practice according to some studies. Children need to be exposed not only to a great variety of books, but it needs to be part of their routine, whether it's in the evening before you put them to sleep or during the day or in the morning. They need to be daily exposed to books. And when I say books, we mean all sorts and types of books. When they're very little, starts with interactive books and books that they can touch, and noisy books, noise that they can hear. Starts with big picture books, and of course they'll have to be with the hard pages so that the child can explore on their own, which is part of their process of exploration on their own. But then move to all sorts of books that you may not think that they're for children, different sorts of encyclopedias, picture books with real characters in them, books about the development of the civilization, books about volcanoes, science books, books about the life in the oceans, all sorts of different books that sometimes are even for adults if they're picture books, because that's how the child learns a lot about being part of the world, getting cultural understanding of how other people live, but also learns a lot about science even at that early stage. Make sure, if you can, to create a little book corner at your home. It needs to be very inviting. It needs to be a place where your child feels so comfortable that they want to spend time there. And although you may read your child a book in the evening, do not really follow the whole script of the book. Stop when they ask you a question and engage into a conversation, because this matters more than even just going through the story as it's written in the book. One thing to remember is also to leave your child to explore books by themselves, even if they're 2 years old and they don't know how to read. Just maybe before you put them to sleep, and if it's part of your routine, reading books now, you can go to the bathroom and tell them, start without me, I'll be back in a second, because even if they're not able to read the symbols, they're making their own stories in their head, or they're retrieving memory if it's a book that they've already heard of. Next thing is be aware of the phonics. What is a phonic? Phonic is the correspondence between the sound, the phonema, and the symbol, the graphema of the letters. And unfortunately in English language there are 26 letters only, but on average 44 phonics, phonemas, which means that for a child, in order for them to learn how to pronounce all these words, they need to start with something which is easier for them. According to Montessori, teaching them phonics is by far much easier because there is one-to-one correspondence between the sound and what they see, the symbol. And here in the UK, at schools, children learn currently, I think it's for the past decades, but they learn how to write and read using phonics. Check how it is in your country. If you're in the US, I think that there is a different approach and you want to really align your child with the approach that is in your country. But make sure that you don't expose them to songs such as A, B, C, where the correspondence between the graphema and the phonema is not there. Next one is increase the phonological awareness in your children. And there are various ways to do that. Why is it so important? For your child to even be able to start reading or writing, they need to be able to distinguish between the different sounds. And for us it may be really easy, but for children it's very, very hard. One way to do that is to play the game I Spy with my little eye, Or I here with my little ear, piano or table. When you start this game with your child, if your child is really young, start with only two objects in front of them, let's say a cup and a fox, and tell them, I spy with my little eye something that starts with the letter k, and then point to the cup. That will start helping them distinguishing between different sounds. If your child is a little bit older, if they have no problem distinguishing between sounds, it will be easier for them to distinguish the first sound, but usually the middle sound and the final sound, it's harder, much harder for them. What I do at home with Mika is I spy with my little eye something that starts with the letter t, and he goes around, looks around and says table. I spy with my little eye something that starts with the letter b. He says book, and that's how we play the game. And now, because he's better, we can progress and do the last. Mika, I spy with my little eye something that starts, a boy whose name starts with A. Adrian. And I spy with my little eye something that starts with the letter P. 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 Over there maybe. P, p, p. No?
Video.
Okay, I need to film, baby. Next one is expand their vocabulary. I really love Montessori because she always shared how she believed the child is much more intelligent than we think they are. And it always helps me when I'm about to introduce something to Mika and I'm thinking, is he having the cognitive development to understand that? But by knowing that they're more intelligent than we think they are, I always go for the challenging thing, explaining things to him. So in terms of vocabulary, we quite often tried to speak a baby language or try not to say the things the way they are, using the right words, let's say when we introduce them to dinosaurs, let's say, or to different sort of dogs or whatever it is. Whereas she says, no, a child is in a sensitive period for language and the child absorbs language like a little sponge. Sensitive periods means that their senses are so much perceptive to certain stimuli, and in their case, this stimulates language. This is the reason why children adopt and learn languages and they're bilingual or trilingual without any effort. Expand their vocabulary by exposing them to different sorts of books and by using descriptive language, by teaching them even early grammar. You can play a game with your child telling them, go and fetch me the book, go and bring me the pencil, go and bring me the mat. And then when they come back, you can tell them, depending on their age, we call these nouns, these are nouns. Then you can ask them to walk slowly, to walk graciously, to jump quickly. And then we introduce them to the adverbs. You can tell them, can you giggle? Can you jump? And we introduce them to verbs. So you can introduce them to adjectives by saying, go and bring me the red pencil, the blue book, and then explain to them, red, blue, these are adjectives. It doesn't need to be complicated, and the children, they might be 3 years old or 4 years old at that stage, but for them it's really interesting and easy to get these concepts. So use any opportunity to read to them different sorts of magazines, books, and things that you may not think that they're child appropriate at the time. Next one is to practice storytelling, and recently I did a video about storytelling. You can go and watch it there. Storytelling is a brilliant activity that boosts the imagination, it works on the memory, which is very much needed for reading. It allows the child to get their own point of views of things and to sort of identify with different heroes. They can make their own stories and they feel empowered by the fact that they can make their own stories. It builds on their confidence. And to introduce them to sequencing as well, which is so important for literacy. Play different sorts of language games. One of the games is Simon Says, and if you don't know this game, you just say to your child, Simon says, put your hands on your head. Simon says, jump. Simon says, go around. If you don't use Simon Says, but you just say, do this, the child should not do it. So in a way, it's very much about them listening very actively your instructions and only do the things that Simon says they should do. But introduce them to lots of verbs, and it's very, very, very funny game for children, especially if they do it with their friends. Another game is a memory game you can play with your child, and if you have siblings, it's even better because you need more people for that. You can say, I went to the zoo and I saw an elephant. And then the next person, which is the mom, dad, or the other child, can say, I went to the zoo and I saw an elephant and a penguin. And then the third person needs to repeat the first two animals and add their own. And then the fourth needs to repeat the first three animals. So the idea of this game is to work on their memory. Memory is very much needed for children to develop reading and writing, because what is writing, after all, if it's not memory of how a symbol looks like? And now let's go to how to support the motor mechanism for the child to be able to write. And when we talk about motor mechanism, the things I refer to is the lightness of the touch, the dexterity of the wrist, the hand-eye coordination, so the child is able to see and to write or to copy the word that they're doing. It includes things such as pencil control, having kinesthetic memory of the letters. Now in the Montessori environment, it's a beautiful way of teaching children how to write, because first of all, they're much well prepared before they even go to the literacy shelf, but also because we use sandpaper letters, so we redraw from the kinesthetic memory of the children. By tracing the letter, they are having a memory in their mind of how this letter looks like. So even if they forget the letter, the minute they go to the sandpaper letter, this memory is retrieved. A few things that you can do at home to support the motor mechanism. Involve your child in your activities of everyday living. Allow your child to help you with cleaning, to cut, to transfer things. Let's say when you bake, to wash the dishes, because let's see what's the movement when you wash the dishes. To clean with the vacuum, although it may seem harder for them. Although these activities are activities of everyday living and maybe they don't have anything to do with literacy in your mind, they do, because they strengthen their wrist, and quite often they help with the dexterity, with hand-eye coordination, and also gives a lot of opportunity of the child to gain the independence that they need and the concentration that they need when they are really practicing something that they need for writing later and for learning how to read. Concentration is huge in learning how to read and write, and by allowing your child to try something many times, you helping them to hone their concentration. Another thing you can do to support the hand is to play a game which is called Let's Take Your Pen to a Walk, and then the pen goes to a walk, climbs stairs, and then goes down and up, and there is a bumpy road. Different things you can incorporate at home very easily is asking your child to trace letters or to trace small lines, and you can use a tracing paper for that. It really helps them not only with the concentration but also with the lightness of the touch and with their movement of their wrists. Do circles and fill out the circles. You don't have to buy anything complicated or anything expensive to practice these things at home. That's it from me, guys. I hope that this video will help you to support your child in their emerging pre-literacy skills. And if you have more ideas or if there are things that you practice at home with your children, I would absolutely love to hear that. So please make sure you leave me a comment below. Let me know if you want me to do more of these videos, for example, for different areas, whether it's sensorial or it's mathematics. And I'll be quite happy to do that now that I have so much deeper understanding of the Montessori philosophy. Thank you so much. If you like this video, please give me a thumb up, share it with your friends, and make sure that you come up on my channel next week as well. Bye!